Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Cooking for the Family. I'm Devon. Today I'm going to share with you how I made this no-knead cheesy bread. These are the ingredients that I'm going to be using: some water, kosher salt, bread flour, some yeast, and I have a few different kinds of cheeses. I'll share more with you about the different cheeses you can use in this bread. Now first, what I do is you want to fluff up your flour when you're getting your flour together for your cheese no-knead bread. When I say no knead, we're not going to be kneading the bread like you traditionally would with most breads. This is a no knead recipe, so it makes it really simple whether you are a beginner or somewhere from a beginner to advanced making this bread. So I'm fluffing up my flour and I scoop it gently into my measuring cup. This is a 1 cup measuring cup, and we're going to be using 3.5 cups of bread flour total. Now when it comes to making bread, it's always best to weigh out your ingredients. However, in lieu of weighing out our ingredients, we can do it this way as well and have great success. And so we just go ahead, fluff up your flour and scoop it into your measuring cup. And the reason why we do that is so that way we don't get a lot of flour packed into our cup and end up with more flour than we intended in our recipe. Next, we're going to use some kosher salt, and I'm going to be using 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. Now, in the description box below, that's under the title, I will have a list of all the ingredients you need to remake this wonderful cheesy bread. This bread comes out cheesy and crispy on the outside and so good. I made it and we had some tomato soup. I made some creamy tomato soup and it was perfect with that. But just as a snack, once you make this bread and you get into making this bread, the sky is the limit when it comes to different variations. So next I'm putting in some yeast, and we're putting in some active dry yeast, and we're using 2 teaspoons and then also 1/4 teaspoon. Now if you are using the packets of yeast, that is the same amount that comes in 1 foil packet of yeast. 2 teaspoons and 1/4 teaspoon is the measurement that comes in that 1 single serve packet. Okay, and so once I have my kosher salt, I have my flour is in here, and I have my yeast, go ahead, you want to blend your dry ingredients together. Then we have some lukewarm water. You don't want it hot, just lukewarm is good. We're going to take our lukewarm water and we're going to add that to our dry ingredients. I like to go ahead and drizzle it all over my bowl, just like I'm doing there. And this is 2 cups of warm water that we're using. So once we have our water, I use my spatula, and then we're going to be blending. I go around the sides. I go from the bottom to the top because we want to make sure as we're blending that we don't miss any of the dry ingredients, any of our flour, any of our kosher salt, any of our yeast. And so we're going to be making what's called a shaggy dough. And so it's going to just kind of come together. It's not going to be smooth just yet. It's going to look just kind of shaggy. And you want to make sure that you don't have any pockets of dry ingredients. Everything needs to be nice and moist. And it's going to be sticky and shaggy looking. Okay, and so that's what you're going for. So go back and forth just like I did, and you see how our dough is coming together. I'm flipping everything around. I'm making sure I have no dry pockets. So once my dough looks like this, because we also don't want to overmix our dough, so it's looking really good, I'm going to get some plastic wrap, and we're going to put some plastic wrap right on top. And I like to also go around the sides as you see there. I want to make sure that all my ingredients are all together in the bottom of the bowl. Now the reason why this is a no-knead bread and it's a no-knead artisan bread is because of the higher water content in the recipe. That higher water content in the recipe and plus also we're going to do a longer resting time. Our dough is gonna rest about 2 hours up to 3 hours until it's double in size. And so the higher water content in the recipe, in addition to the longer resting time, allows the gluten to form without us having to knead it, and it also allows all these wonderful air bubbles to form. So our dough has been resting. It actually has been resting for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It is, see all those air bubbles and see how it jiggles? That's what you want. You want your dough to double in size. You want the air bubbles and you want it to be able to jiggle because those air bubbles are what's going to be throughout our bread. I have here my Dutch oven. This is a 4.5 quart size Dutch oven. I'm going to be putting this in our oven. I start my oven off cold. So I'm going to put my Dutch oven with the lid in the oven on the center rack at 450 degrees. So it's warming up. Now this is the cheese that I'm going to be using. I found this cheese actually at Target, and it's a combination of Cheddar, Fontina, and Gruyere. And the other cheese I'm going to be using is a sharp cheese. I like using sharp cheese when I make this bread because the sharp cheese really comes through. And the cheese blend is going to be that cheesy component where, when I say cheesy component, what I'm talking about is like the ooey gooiness. That is going to be that 3 cheese blend. You can also use Colby Jack cheese also works great in this. So Colby Jack cheese and a sharp cheese as well. But I like adding whatever cheese I'm going to use. I also like to put in some sharp. So I went on and I grated my sharp cheese. Now total with cheese, we're going to use 2.5 cups. 2 cups is going to be in the cheese bread itself. I said it was cheesy. And on top, we're going to put a 1/2 cup. And so far I have the 1 cup there. I have about a 1/2 cup here. So I added some of the 3 cheese blend together. And then we're going to add a little bit more to get the total of the 2.5 cups of what I need. So here I have the other 1/2 cup. So total, again, we have the 2.5 cups of cheese. I'm going to mix it around just a little bit now that I have my proper portions out. So that way I want a little bit of that cheese blend as well as the sharp on top, as well as I want the cheese blend and the sharp in the middle and throughout our cheese bread. So what we're going to do is we're also going to be needing some parchment paper, and I'll show you what we do with the parchment paper when it comes to baking our bread. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome in, and if you're a returner, welcome back. On my channel, I love to share what I cook and bake for my family in my kitchen. Baking, that is so my passion. It is so my jam. Plus putting together good home-cooked meals. So if you enjoy that kind of content, I hope you consider subscribing. Now, once I've cleaned off my countertop, I put some flour down, and I also use bread flour as well when I put my flour down. And you see how nicely it jiggles. And then what you're going to notice is when you go to take your dough out of your bowl, it's going to be very, very sticky because this is a sticky wet dough. The Artisan dough is a sticky wet dough. And do you see how those strings are? That's that gluten that has formed without us having to knead because of the high water content in the recipe with the dough. And so when you put it on your countertop, this is where the real fun begins. And I say it's the real fun because you and the dough, because you want the dough to go one way and the dough is going to want to go another way. But rest assured, what you want to do is you want to fold it over. It's going to be sticky. It'll stick to your fingers. Just do like I did. I just went on and rubbed some more flour right there. Anytime I make the Artisan bread, I always feel like I want to knead this dough so bad. But you do not want to knead it. So resist the feeling to knead the dough. And so you want to just continue to take the dough. I'm going to take the dough and pull it over onto itself. I'm going to share with you that. I'm using here my bench scraper, which is a very good help. And so I dip it in the flour and I go from the bottom right there, and then I fold it over just like that. When I do my fold is when I put another layer of cheese. We're going to end up with about 3 layers of cheese inside our dough, inside our bread, and then we're going to end up with that final layer, which is the 1/2 cup that we set aside there, that 1/2 cup layer of cheese on top. And so you want to continue to fold over and bring your dough into a nice ball. So you see how I went from the edge there, and I'm bringing it over just like that. Now, if it sticks to your countertop a little bit, that's okay. You can use either a spatula or you can use your bench scraper like I have, and I'm going to be lifting my dough and putting it on that parchment paper. And when you're adding your cheese to your dough, you're pulling it into that ball. You see how nice and puffy and buoyant, it has a lot of buoyancy to it, and that is because of all that those bubbles that created in our dough during that 2 to 3 hour resting period. And so that allowed us not to do any of that kneading. So be mindful that you don't want to press down on your dough and you don't want to be too rough with it, because we have all those wonderful air bubbles that are formed inside of our dough. So once I put the cheese on top, I gather up all 4 sides and I put it on the parchment paper. Now we're going to go ahead and put it inside our nice hot Dutch oven. The Dutch oven has been in the oven at 450, so it is nice and hot. The whole Dutch oven is hot. The lid is hot. I go ahead, it is inside the parchment paper. If it sticks a little bit to the parchment paper, that's okay, because as it bakes, it is going to release from the parchment paper. Make sure all your parchment paper is inside your Dutch oven. I put the top on. We're going to put everything into the oven. It's going to bake at 450 degrees with the top on for 35 minutes, okay? So it's been 35 minutes. We go ahead, take it off. Look, it looks so beautiful. Oh my gosh. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to put it back in the oven. We're going to put our cheese bread back in the oven and let it bake for an additional 5 minutes to an additional 10 minutes at the 450. This is going to give a chance for it to get nice and beautiful golden brown on top. So our bread is out of the oven. I have lifted it out of my Dutch oven. It is still piping hot. We're going to put it on our cooling rack and we're going to let it cool for at least about 15 to 25 minutes. And we'll have all this nice soft melted cheese in the inside. And you see how nicely a crust has formed around the top. Is a beautiful golden brown, and the cheese is nice and baked around the outside as well as on the top. And so once it's cooled down a little bit, and at least you want to give it a good 10 minutes to cool down just a bit, just because cutting it's going to be a little bit easier if it's just not as hot. And let's see how the bottom of our bread is looking. Oh my gosh, it looks so good on the bottom. The bottom is also nice and a beautiful color. So I'm going to transfer it to my board and we're going to slice into it. Now this cheese bread goes great if you want to just cut it into slices or wedges and have it like with the salad or with soup, with that tomato and basil soup that I did. It was a nice creamy soup that I made, and I'll put a link to the soup that I made in the description box below. But I've gone on and I've cut into our bread, and you see it has the ripple of cheese. The bread is nice and soft and it's got that crust on the outside. You can add some fresh jalapenos to this sliced and make yourself a nice cheese and jalapeno bread. You can bake some pepperoni on top or some garlic and herb seasoning. Well, go ahead and take your bite. Now I'm going to take my bite and see how we did. Wow. I hope you give this recipe a try. And another pro tip is to add it to your charcuterie board or your appetizer tray and watch it just disappear. Well, that is it for me today. If you're not subscribed, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. It's free. And if you like this video, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up. Click share. Share this video with a friend or family. And don't forget to click that notification bell so you can come back and visit me again in my kitchen. And remember, it's always good when Devon is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.